I've quadrupled the size of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which has resulted in thousands of prosecutions of predators online who are exploiting children.
Child porn market is real on the internet, and we want to attack that.
We're here to say enough. Whatever you're doing to try to circumvent or get away from the long arm of the law, it's going to end soon.
Recording. And this is Staff Sergeant Snyder. I'm with Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. We're here today serving a search warrant in reference to the downloading of child pornography from this location. The Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force from the South Carolina Attorney General's Office conducted a peer-to-peer investigation beginning last October.
Okay.
In October and in December, there were multiple files of child pornography that were downloaded from this location.
As Beaufort County Sheriff's investigators dug through James Corbin's home, seizing computers, hard drives, anything that could hold a digital file.
If you don't mind, just come over here. So I know I introduced myself earlier, but I'm Peter Solomon at NCIS. In here too. Sam Walter with NCIS.
A pair of Naval Criminal Investigative Service agents pulled him off his job at a Marine Corps base in Cherry Point, North Carolina.
So one of the things is obviously you're not under arrest. You're free to leave at any time. So if you don't want to speak with us, that's fine. You can just walk out. I don't know a ton about it. They basically just told me, hey, there was like some allegation involving child pornography. I just kind of looked you up really quick and was like, oh, who's this guy? Doesn't seem like something you do based on what I've seen, so...
Yeah, you know what I know. They came into my house and took my computer.
Yeah, so all I want to do is kind of make sure, see if we can't sort it out and go from there.
Corbin is a computer engineer for a Defense Department contractor.
And what type of security clearance do you have?
Secret.
Secret.
Corbin was also the Beaufort High School girls golf coach. He was slowly learning he was about to be publicly accused of being an online child predator.
Did they tell your wife anything at all?
No, they said they have a search warrant. They were looking for my wife says 3 files or something that were allegedly downloaded off of one of our computers. Because our IP address showed up.
Corbin gave agents his phone and tablet.
I make this decision freely and voluntarily, and it is made with no threats having been made or promises extended to me.
So here's the back of my tower.
The details of what law enforcement claimed they found downloaded to Corbin's home IP address were graphic and horrific. In the second interview with a pair of NCIS agents the day after the raid.
But I'm going to read you something here, okay? This is a video file that shows a male and a female that both appear to be around the age of 13.
We're going to stop here for now. We'll come back to James Corbin's case in a few minutes. I discovered Corbin's case while digging through years of AG prosecutions. In February 2025, I filed our first Freedom of Information Act request in this investigation, asking the AG's office for years of prosecution records. In May 2025, the AG's office sent me this letter. The office has access to court administration's case management system for general sessions and sometimes runs reports from that system. A report containing all the general sessions cases currently pending and assigned to the office was run on May 22, 2025. A copy of that report is attached. In November 2025, I then asked the AG's office for records of all disposed cases. But in January 2026, the AG's office refused to give us that information and told me if we wanted that information, I could go to all of the state's 46 clerk's offices and dig through thousands of closed AG cases myself. To attempt to pull records that would reveal all of this information from all of our prosecution files from 2020 to present would be a nearly impossible undertaking that would shut down the work of the prosecution sections of the AG's office. If that remains your request, the office may be required to file an action, which would allow the office to request a hearing with the circuit court to seek relief from unduly burdensome, overly broad, or otherwise improper requests. Sincerely yours, Office of the South Carolina Attorney General. So the AG's office is threatening to sue us if we keep pushing them to show us who they prosecuted and the outcome of those prosecutions. I guess we'll have to do this the hard way. So the quickest way to figure out which cases the Attorney General prosecuted is to go to his website. And here we look through every press release, hundreds of press releases for his arrests and prosecutions from 2020 to 2025. I then found the person's name in the online court system, and then I took what I found here and built a spreadsheet. logging the defendant's name, county, each charge filed, whether they were prior sex offenders, and the outcome of each case. This research took months, and now 5,600 lines of data later, we now have some of the stats the AG's office tried to keep from us. The bulk of the 5,600 charges filed between 2020 and 2025 are classified as computer crimes, sexual exploitation first degree, second degree, and third degree, which are creation of, transmitting, and possession of child pornography. Those carry max sentences of 10 to 20 years in prison for each count. Of the 5,600 charges filed, 93% were computer crimes, not hands-on child predator crimes. The AG charged 738 defendants, 367 defendants, half of all charged, negotiated plea deals with the AG's office. The other half are either in a pending status or the AG dismissed those cases. When you dig into those dispositions, 80% of the charges filed were dismissed in plea deals. When someone does plead guilty, and more than half of those charged did, most of the time they either end up with time-served sentences of less than a year in jail or no jail time at all. In nearly every plea case, a defendant faces multiple charges, but the AG agrees to plea a single count or just a few, and the AG's office dismisses the rest. For example,
a Mount Pleasant man faces charges accused of sexually exploiting minors.
The AG's office charged Derek Hugh McConnell with 10 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor in 2020. He faced 100 years in prison, but a plea agreement allowed him to plead guilty to 2 counts, and the AG's office dismissed the other 8 charges. He was sentenced to 1 day in jail and placed on the sex offender registry. In 2023, Ryan Lee Juranic faced 60 years in prison on 6 counts of trying to solicit sex from a person he believed to be a minor. In his plea agreement, the AG's office dropped every charge. In exchange, Juranic pleaded guilty to communicating obscene messages, a non-sex offender registry charge that carries 3 years. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison, suspended to the 1 day he spent in jail, and ordered to serve 3 years probation. In case after case, the AG's office published press releases accusing people of multiple charges, threatening decades in prison, then dismissed almost all counts in plea deals inside courtrooms all across the state. Well, why is this happening? If you read these press releases, it sounds like child predators are facing decades, sometimes lifetimes in prison. Well, there is one man who could answer that. That is South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson. We asked the AG to sit with us for an interview to explain these stats, but he refused. An interview with Attorney General Wilson is not possible, his press secretary wrote in a May 4th email. Even though you've submitted a written request for an interview, your previous unprofessional behavior and biased reporting do not lead us to believe you will report the facts on any topic regarding the Attorney General or this office, whether you ambush him in hopes of an interview or a scheduled sit-down.
I was here to speak through the cameras to the people of South Carolina. Think about this to everyone listening. If you were hiring someone to do a job and you ask them to come in and do an interview with you and they don't bother to show up, then do you hire that person?
The AG said that in April 2026, minutes after a gubernatorial debate where he criticized some of his opponents for not showing up to answer questions.
We consider the governor's detail, but we're assigned Alan Wilson. But if you guys don't mind, let me just get him out of the car. If y'all will just step in there first.
Oh, no. No, we'll stay out here on the sidewalk. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, though. We decided to take our questions to a campaign job interview the AG attended in Chesterfield. A SLED agent had a spot coned off for Wilson and another SLED agent assigned to drive him around. Here you go. Instead of stopping, Wilson and his sled driver disappeared. He drove right past. Y'all don't consider us a security threat, do you? We're just exercising the First Amendment right to the freedom of the press. And I hope you guys wouldn't make that more difficult on us than necessary. Turns out those SLED agents did everything they could do to keep us from questioning the state's top prosecutor. 12 minutes later, Wilson and his SLED driver slipped up a side street behind the meet and greet, and Wilson wasted no time getting away from us as he bolted through a side door. Mr. Wilson, why do you refuse to talk to us about your child predator investigations? coming up. Can you blame the public for looking at these cases at the end and go, man, maybe the AG's office isn't as serious about putting these people away as they say they are?
I completely understand why the public thinks that.
They're just going to tie you up, destroy your life, and then quietly dismiss it on the other side, and you're left to pick up all the pieces.
Mr. Wilson, why do you refuse to talk to us about your child predator investigations? No one told us we couldn't come inside Attorney General Alan Wilson's Chesterfield County meet and greet, so we tried the front door. Hey. No? Wow. Well, this is the Wilson meet and greet in Chesterfield, and this is his campaign staffer, and this is another lady who I do not know, and they have blocked the door. Yes, this is where this ends. Our analysis of the AG's office's publicized child predator prosecutions revealed cases where the AG's office scored heavy sentences in some of those press release cases from 2020 to September 2025. Less than half of the defendants who pled guilty did get jail time of more than a year. But unless it's a hands-on child sex assault, few are sentenced anywhere near the max. Only the most egregious cases, 33 times to be exact, did a defendant get at least a 10-year prison sentence, which is the max sentence for the lowest level of internet predator crimes. For example, the AG charged Edward Leroy Allen with 49 counts back in 2020. In a plea deal with the AG's office, Allen agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of sharing and possessing child porn and 2 counts of the 11 charges of having sex with a minor younger than 16 years old. In exchange for his 4-charge plea, the AG's office dropped all of the 45 remaining charges, helping avoid the 780-year max sentence he originally faced. Allen was sentenced to 20 years, but he'll have to serve only 12 years, where he'll then be released from prison on probation. In Greenville County, the AG charged Brittany Shepard Campbell with 9 counts, including criminal sexual conduct with a baby and 8 counts of first-degree child exploitation. She faced a max of life in prison, but she pled to 1 count of sexual abuse, and the AG dropped the remaining 8 charges, and she got a 35-year sentence. Can you blame the public for looking at these cases at the end and go, man, maybe the AG's office isn't as serious about putting these people away as they say they are?
I completely understand why the public thinks that. I understand why certain politicians think that. I understand, actually, honestly, I would probably think that if I wasn't living in this world every day, right? But to answer your question, no, I don't think the public's being unreasonable. How could you draw any other conclusion?
Allie Benevento is a Columbia attorney who spent nearly 2 decades representing clients charged by the AG's office in these types of cases. Do you think that some of the publicity around all of these press releases, these press conferences, that some of this is just public relations?
Sure. Of course.
Do you think that politicians in this state have set an unrealistic expectation in the public's mind by saying, we're going after each of these monsters, we're going to throw the book at them, and we're going to put them under the jail, and they'll never be heard from again?
100%. Absolutely, they're setting unrealistic expectations.
In those plea deals, Benevento says that's an essential part of moving these cases through the justice system. When you talk about resolving cases with plea deal after plea deal after plea deal, rarely have a trial, is this good justice?
To that question I would ask, and I'm not trying to be cute, what happens at a plea? What does a person stand up and say? They say, I'm guilty, Your Honor. I accept responsibility. They're accepting responsibility, they're saying they're guilty, and I know I'm hearing you say they walk away with probation. Whew, all right, I'm gonna take a breath. Anytime somebody gets a probationary sentence in South Carolina, it is accompanied by a term of imprisonment. What that means is that if you screw up while you are on probation, you serve 10 years in prison, the maximum possible penalty. Probation, that's a whole nother topic. That is not a cakewalk. Sex offender probation in South Carolina, I mean, if you gave me the choice, I would lay down and I would go to prison before I went on sex offender probation. And that's a pretty popular opinion across the board. Do you want to be on SOP or would you rather go to prison? Pick the prison.
Another stat our research makes clear, The AG's predator prosecutions is a plea-driven system where trials are rare. When the AG takes cases to trial, and we found 6 trials since 2020, offenders do get serious jail time, like Kenny Swaney in Anderson County, who took his 4 counts of exploitation to trial in August 2024. The jury found him guilty on all counts, and the judge hit him with a 20-year sentence.
We got Attorney General Wilson in the room, so we're going to move to Senate Bill 723.
Alan Wilson went to the state legislature in February asking for tougher mandatory minimums for repeat offenders.
I can't tell you the percentage it is, but it is a large percentage of people that we're dealing with over and over and over and over.
But the AG's published predator cases show in the past 5 years, only 68 of the 738 defendants, or 10%, were on the sex offender registry when charged, meaning 90% of the AG's cases were not registered sex offenders.
Sometimes because of the technicalities of these cases can be very difficult to prove in court because I can prove that your IP address was used to download porn, but I have to prove that it was actually you using your IP address. You could have been out of the country and your neighbor could have been pirating off of you. So these cases are a lot more difficult and nuanced than people think, but when you have the ability, when you have someone that you know is trading in child sex abuse material and they don't want to face 5 years, but you can get them on a 3-year offense, that extra 2 years is a leverage tool that our prosecutors and law enforcement can use to hold these people accountable.
Benevento has a warning about laws like that.
To say that we need to start, being harder or not make no plea offers, mandatory minimums, what you are essentially doing in practicality is making it more difficult for prosecutors to work and move those cases.
There's actually a computer back there that they missed, and they missed that completely.
Here's the rest of the story of what happened to James William Corbin.
2 hard drives are right there on the corner of that desk. They were not touched.
Corbin and his attorney got the state's discovery evidence. He says he couldn't find any document in the case file showing the sheriff's office ever captured the router logs, identifying the device that downloaded those child porn files.
Totally was a hunch. They came to my door. I was guilty before my boys even opened that door that morning because they came in looking for my stuff. I call it the indict then investigate. When we're supposed to be investigated, then if the evidence shows, actually, then you bring the indictment. And I'm all for it.
No, there's no question that they were there. There's no question they were downloaded to it.
Despite what those NCIS agents told Corbin in this 2-day interrogation, he would later disprove that.
Recording.
6 days later, James Corbin surrendered.
So it's 5 warrants, it's all sexual exploitation of a minor. Any questions? No, sir. All right. Handcuffs go in the front. In the front? Yep. That's good. I was worried about that because you'll read about it in the papers. You work with people.
If convicted, James Corbin faced 50 years in prison. He lost his golf coaching job that day, and the defense contractor later fired him over the allegations. The sheriff blasted his mugshot to the world, labeling him a child predator.
What exactly did law enforcement accuse you of?
Downloading and viewing child pornography and actually disseminating it, which I never have. I don't know how it happened. I just know for a fact, and they know for a fact, that it wasn't on my computer.
6 months after the raid, the AG's office finished its forensic analysis of Corbin's devices. The AG's report identified 6 files of interest on 1 hard drive and not a single file on any other device seized. Corbin spent 2 years on bond awaiting trial. He spent $30,000 in legal fees and experts.
I just think they don't understand what they're looking at, and they don't go deep enough, and they basically arrest off of a hunch. Maybe they've been watching too much TV.
Corbin says he knew then he'd have to prove his innocence. He hired a computer examiner to investigate the AG's digital evidence. The examiner obtained the AG's discovery packet and dug into those files. There is no forensic evidence demonstrating that Mr. Corbin ever possessed the 5 files on any of the devices. It is my professional opinion that the evidence does not support a credible conclusion that Mr. Corbin was ever in possession of the files underlying the charges in this case. On March 30th, 2026, the AG prosecutor dismissed every charge, citing insufficient evidence.
Do you believe that that report, that actual in-depth analysis that you had to pay for, was the reason these charges were dismissed?
Without a doubt. There is no doubt in my mind that is why.
Had you not had the financial means to fight like you did fight, do you think there may have been a different outcome?
Probably. Even my own lawyer was pressing me to accept a plea deal that wasn't a good deal.
In the 5 years of AG press releases we reviewed, we never found one instance of the office telling the public the full details of a plea deal or clearing someone's name in a case they could not prove. In fact, when I asked Wilson's press secretary about James Corbin's case, the AG still did not clear Corbin's name. Our office will not ignore evidence of child sexual abuse material, but we also cannot proceed with a case that we know we cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
At the very least, they need to report the dismissal with the same urgency as they reported the arrest. The moment I was arrested, they sent it out on blast, and yet it's dismissed, and then nothing's. I'm not surprised. I mean, if you ask them, they'd still tell you I'm guilty.
With a gubernatorial primary less than 2 weeks away, some people might question the timing of this report, but the timing is all on Attorney General Alan Wilson. We started this investigation 15 months ago. Last November, I asked the AG's office for disposed cases, but the office delayed us, refusing to release any of its disposition records in March. Had we gotten the records we asked for 6 months ago, we would be nowhere near an election window now.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.